Welcome back to the deep dive. It is truly fantastic to have you with us again.
Great to be back.
And I'm genuinely thrilled, honestly, to see the continued surge in new subscriptions and views. It really makes our day knowing so many of you are tuning in,
It's fantastic.
exploring these incredible topics with us, and crucially, hitting those like buttons. Your positive engagement, your curiosity, it's absolutely what keeps us, digging deeper.
Absolutely. The feedback helps immensely.
It does.
Yeah.
And if you're new here, a really warm welcome to you. I highly encourage you to explore our growing library of previous deep dives. There's a whole world of fascinating subjects just waiting for you.
Some really deep cuts in there.
Oh, yeah. But today, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey. One that promises to fundamentally challenge our, conventional perceptions of history. Maybe even humanity itself.
It's a big one.
It is. We are plunging headfirst into the lost continent of Hyperborea, portal to the ancient north. And let me tell you, this deep dive is going to be profoundly interesting. Very, very interesting. Peeling back layers of mystery, revealing some genuinely unexpected connections.
Unexpected is definitely the word.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Indeed. We're really setting off into the heart of a profound mystery here. It's a concept, Hyperborea, that has captivated human imagination for, millennia.
Millennia, right. Not just recent stuff.
Not at all. It appears in accounts from cultures separated by vast distances, vast spans of time. It's described not just as some mythical land, but as a deeply mysterious and ancient civilization.
A lost continent, even.
That's the idea. A lost continent whose secrets humanity has been searching for quite literally for centuries. Our search begins way back, antiquity.
So where do we start? Greece. Rome.
Exactly. The earliest threads lead us back to the 7th century BCE in ancient Greece, the cradle of Western civilization, you could say. Here, revered poets, historians, they first documented this enigmatic land of the Hyperboreans. Think of Hesiod, for instance.
Hesiod, yeah. Theogony, right. Origins of the gods.
Precisely, a foundational figure. He, along with other early bards, depicted a land far to the north, a place of almost unimaginable blessedness.
Wow.
Then there's Herodotus, the father of history.
Right, well-traveled, wrote everything down.
He did. And his accounts, though maybe sometimes leaning into the mythical, they treated Hyperborea as a legitimate geographical concept, a real place.
Not just a story.
Not just a story. Even the Roman poet Ovid, in his epic works, he contributed to this narrative, perpetuating this idea of a distant northern paradise. And crucially, these respected ancient masters, they consistently described Hyperborea not as some abstract myth, but as a tangible northern country.
A northern country. Okay.
And what's truly fascinating is how these ancient descriptions painted a picture of, not just a place, but an entire people, a way of life that bordered on the utopian.
Utopian?
Well, the Hyperboreans were consistently held in the highest regard. They were characterized as intelligent, hardworking, meticulously organized.
That's pretty.
And known for their profoundly peaceful nature, an almost unparalleled purity of thought, of spirit. These weren't just, admirable human qualities.
Right.
Remarkably, they were qualities said to be valued by the gods themselves.
The gods, like Zeus and...
Specifically Apollo, one of the most significant deities, right? God of music, poetry, light, healing.
Yeah, Apollo. Big deal in Delphi.
Exactly. And he's said to have particularly favored these people of the north. Our sources suggest he even gave them the name Hyperboreans.
Meaning? Beyond
the north wind. Boreas, the north wind.
Okay.
And Apollo apparently provided them with invaluable assistance, gifts that contributed to their development, particularly fostering their highly developed artistic sensibility.
So they were artists, poets.
Very much so. And this artistic connection seemed to be a major draw for Apollo himself. Imagine this. Every winter, Apollo would leave Delphi.
The center of the Greek world.
And journey to these beloved Hyperborean lands. To rest, apparently, from his earthly worries, immerse himself in the refined artistic nature of their poets, their artists, their singers.
Wow. A divine retreat.
Kind of. And it's even noted that historical figures, individuals whose existence is, largely accepted, like Abaris.
Abaris the soothsayer, priest of Apollo.
That's the one. And Aristeas, the ancient Greek ocean explorer, they were either born there or began their significant influential work in Hyperborea.
Really? historical figures linked directly.
That's what the accounts suggest. Their lives served as an example of the highest spirituality, purity for all ancient peoples, a kind of moral and cultural benchmark.
Okay, that's a lot more concrete than just myth.
Yeah.
But still, poets, maybe some embellishment.
Perhaps. But then you have Pliny the Elder.
The Roman scholar. Natural history.
Exactly. 1st century CE, a polymath who meticulously compiled the world's first true encyclopedia, a monumental work.
Right. Very empirical, very fact-focused for his time.
Extremely. So, given his rigorous approach, his opinion on Hyperborea is considered, well, very difficult to dismiss.
What did Pliny say?
He described Hyperborea as a country located beyond the Riphean Mountains.
Mythical northern mountains.
Often associated with that, yes. And on the other side of Aquilo being the Roman name for Boreas, the north wind.
Beyond the north wind again?
And intriguingly, the source connects this to Vril, an ancient Chinese name for a northern wind, suggesting these formidable winds resided in these mountains, guarding the approach.
Like a barrier.
Almost. And this location, beyond the north wind, implies a place at the very beginning of life on Earth, like a primordial Eden.
Wow.
Pliny claimed these regions were perpetually full of light, situated at the extreme limits of the circulation of celestial bodies, where, astonishingly, daylight lasted for 6 months.
6 months. That sounds polar.
It absolutely points to a polar region, doesn't it? Where the sun stays above the horizon for extended periods in summer. It lends a surprising geographical grounding to these accounts, despite the fantastical elements.
So Pliny wasn't just repeating myths, he was adding geographical detail.
Seemingly so. And he went on to describe human life there as very long and happy. Death was exceedingly rare, only for those who had genuinely grown tired of happiness and earthly blessings.
Tired of happiness, that's quite a concept. Truly utopian.
It underscores the whole paradisiacal nature attributed to this land. But here's the thing, Hyperborea wasn't just a Roman or Greek idea.
Oh, where else?
Its recognition was far wider. It demonstrates a kind of global consciousness of this northern land. It's mentioned, for example, in the Indian Vedas.
The Vedas. Ancient Hindu scripture.
The oldest, yes. Similarly, it appears in the Iranian Avesta, the sacred texts of Zoroastrianism.
Wow. India, Iran.
And remarkably, even in Chinese historical chronicles, there are references that seem to align with the Hyperborean narrative.
Across continents.
Across continents. Beyond those, Germanic and Scandinavian epics also speak of a similar harsh northern nature, but often hint at a time when these regions were more hospitable. They mention the long nights and the equally long day.
Consistent themes.
Very consistent. Furthermore, you have detailed descriptions of the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights.
Right.
Descriptions from people living much further south consistently pointed to a northern location for this land, serving as a kind of natural beacon.
Makes sense.
But what many of these diverse global accounts also consistently suggest is that this idyllic existence came to an abrupt, catastrophic end.
Ah, the fall.
A natural cataclysm leading to global cooling is frequently cited. This forced the Hyperborean ethnic group to abandon their once blessed continent, migrate south to more hospitable places, sowing the seeds of their civilization across other lands.
Wow, that's quite a sweep of history and geography. So these aren't just isolated stories or local legends. We're talking about incredibly consistent accounts across diverse, geographically separated ancient cultures, all painting a strikingly similar picture.
Exactly. A lost northern paradise, advanced people, spiritual, gifted.
Then forced out by climate change, basically. Global cooling. That's a powerful unifying narrative that really does transcend simple folklore, doesn't it?
It really does.
But the question is, how did this ancient story, seemingly lost to time, resurface with such force centuries later? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Precisely. Because the narrative, the whole idea of Hyperborea and its demise, it gained this remarkable visual representation centuries later. One that absolutely reignited public interest.
A visual representation. How?
Through the work of the renowned Renaissance cartographer Gerard Mercator.
Mercator. The map guy. Mercator projection.
That's the one. A figure whose contributions revolutionized map-making, global navigation. His unique atlas, his final monumental work, was actually published after his death.
Posthumously.
In 1595, by his son Rudolph, immediately following Mercator's death. And this atlas contained a map that just captivated public attention. It became a catalyst for renewed speculation about the far north.
Okay, what was so special about this map?
Well, it wasn't just any map. It was this extraordinary depiction of a mysterious Arctic continent Mercator himself named Arcida.
Arctida.
And the geographical features he laid out were incredibly specific and unusual for his time, this continent, shown enclosed by a formidable mountain chain, like a protective wall.
Guarded.
And at its very center, a massive central lake, almost an inland sea, from which 4 great rivers flowed, meticulously dividing the land into 4 roughly equal parts, like spokes from a hub.
4 rivers, 4 sections. Sounds symbolic.
It does. And within this central lake, an island rose prominently, featuring Mount Meru.
Mount Meru, isn't that from, like, Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, the cosmic mountain?
Exactly. Ancient legends, according to the source, consider Mount Meru the universal mountain of the ancestors of Indo-European peoples, a sacred axis mundi, which further imbues Mercator's map with this deep mythological significance.
Well, okay, what else?
Mercator's map also depicted Arcatita as being heated by the sea.
Heated by the sea in the Arctic. That sounds wrong.
It's a curious detail, isn't it? Seemingly contradictory for a land we know is frozen. But here's what really grabs you. The coastlines. They're described as painfully familiar, strikingly resembling the northern borders of Eurasia and America, including recognizable landmasses like Greenland and Iceland.
Wait, Greenland and Iceland were on this Arctic continent map? Looking like they do now?
Suggesting a historical cartographic knowledge, perhaps, that predates its apparent discovery and exploration by centuries. But the truly unusual part, the detail that defies all modern geography.
No.
These lands, which we know today are covered in eternal ice and permafrost, were depicted on Mercator's map as being surrounded by greenery.
Greenery.
No trace of eternal ice or permafrost. A sharp contrast to the frozen reality we know, strongly suggesting a once temperate climate in the Arctic.
A climate that could actually support a civilization like Hyperborea.
Precisely. A climate essential for that kind of sophisticated life.
Did Mercator say where he got this information? It's radically different.
Well, Mercator himself, in his notes, he claimed he created this document based on certain secret knowledge, and that he always intended it for his atlas.
Secret knowledge.
His son, Rudolf, by publishing it, unknowingly involved himself and the world in this mysterious history. Ancient poems now visually represented.
So the map caused a stir.
Oh, absolutely. This romantic and inexplicable depiction generated immense interest for at least 30 years after publication. It fueled intense speculation about an ancient northern civilization.
And the name he chose, Arctida.
Clearly points to an Arctic northern location, perfectly echoing those ancient descriptions of Hyperborea we talked about.
Yeah.
It bridges that gap, you know? Classical myth and Renaissance cartography.
So Mercator's map, made in the 16th century, centuries after the Greeks and Romans, it inadvertently provides what some might see as cartographic proof for a once temperate inhabited Arctic.
It reinforces that idea, yeah.
And implicitly, it reinforces that catastrophic cooling theory. The reason the Hyperboreans supposedly migrated is like a visual echo, a map maker's whisper, of those ancient texts.
A very compelling whisper.
And it implies a level of geographical knowledge way beyond what was common then. So what does this all mean when we jump forward again to the early 20th century, particularly in Russia? Because that's where this ancient mystery seems to have found a new, pretty intense focus, right?
Exactly. The early 20th century, especially in Russia, saw this significant, fascinating revival of the search for Hyperborea. But this time, it was driven by a unique mix.
A mix of what?
Burgeoning scientific inquiry, deep-rooted local folklore, and, well, quite dramatically, emergent political interests.
Politics, too. Okay.
A strong conviction started to grow among Russian scientists, researchers, that Arctida, or Hyperborea, was specifically located on the Kola Peninsula.
Kola Peninsula.
Right.
Way up north in Russia, right? Bordering the Arctic Ocean.
That's the place. Vast, remote. This belief was partly fueled by individual enthusiasts, explorers, researchers venturing deep into this harsh region.
What do they find?
They interacted extensively with the local indigenous people. The source calls them Japuchikami, but in context, that's understood as the indigenous Sami people, or Lapps.
The Sami, right. They've lived there forever.
For millennia. And these Sami held incredibly rich, fascinating local legends, traditions, passed down through generations. Explorers spoke of sacred images, not just drawn on stone, but meticulously carved into granite rocks.
Carved, like petroglyphs.
But accessible only through secluded clearings deep in untouched forests, places known only to the most skilled Sami hunters.
Hidden knowledge.
And the Sami traditions, even today, convey this belief. Those who truly master the secrets of the ancient people become equal to the gods in power.
Wow. So a direct link to ancient secrets carefully guarded.
That's the suggestion, a deep, localized knowledge. But despite this growing conviction, these tantalizing clues, any serious, large-scale scientific expedition was initially delayed.
Why?
The tumultuous events of the early 20th century, World War I, the Russian Revolution, it effectively postponed any organized search indefinitely.
Right, bigger things happen.
Then a pivotal figure enters the scene. Someone who would inadvertently provide the pretext for a major scientific undertaking. Professor Vladimir Mikhailovich Bekhterev.
Bekhterev, the neurologist, psychiatrist, brain research guy.
The very same, a titan in his field. He developed this profound, almost obsessive interest in what was then called Arctic hysteria.
Arctic hysteria, what's that?
A peculiar, distressing illness, widespread among northern peoples, especially indigenous populations. It would manifest spontaneously, really unsettling symptoms.
Like what?
Sudden excitement, aggressive, uncontrollable behavior, uncontrolled reflexes, profound depression. A highly disoriented state they called Hollandio locally. Sometimes it led to this absolute uncontrolled flight, occasionally after stripping off their clothes, just running into the harsh environment.
Good heavens, that sounds terrifying.
It does. Attacks typically lasted 2 to 3 hours. Then the person would fall into deep sleep, wake up with no memory of it, no residual symptoms. But the illness itself could last several days, with repeated episodes.
Bizarre. What caused it?
Well, crucially, and most intriguingly for us, Arctic hysteria was explicitly linked by Bekhterev and local beliefs to the action of some unexplained forces.
Unexplained forces, not just like a vitamin deficiency or something.
That was the link they were making. So Bekterev's scientific fascination with this mysterious phenomenon, though seemingly unrelated to ancient civilizations at first, it provided a compelling, academically sound scientific pretext for deeper exploration of the Kola Peninsula.
Ah, I see. It made it a legitimate target for state-funded research to study this hysteria.
Exactly.
That's a unique and truly compelling blend, isn't it? We have cutting-edge early 20th century science looking into a real medical issue, but it's intertwined with ancient folklore and then linked to unexplained forces in a region rumored to be a lost continent.
It's quite the convergence.
It feels like stepping into a real-life X-Files episode. This unique mix really sets the stage for what comes next, doesn't it? A much more significant and, as it turns out, tragically consequential expedition.
Yes, it does.
What's fascinating here is how these seemingly separate threads, ancient myths, Mercator's maps, a mysterious illness, a top scientist, all start pointing towards one remote northern peninsula and catching the eye of some very powerful people.
Precisely, and this convergence led directly to one of the most pivotal and ultimately tragic chapters in the modern search for Hyperborea. In the early 1920s, the whole topic was dramatically reignited by a truly formidable figure in the new Soviet state, Felix
Dzerzhinsky, Iron Felix, head of the Cheka, the secret police.
The very same. Prominent Bolshevik leader, creator of the terror apparatus, head of Soviet security, not just any bureaucrat.
Wow. What was his interest?
This source suggests he probably encountered Arctida or Hyperborea through popular scientific literature. There was a surge in interest in esoteric ancient stuff then. But his direct involvement, that was a massive turning point.
It made it a state matter.
Exactly. Transformed it from scientific curiosity to state importance. It indicated a clear desire to harness ancient knowledge or technology for the benefit of state power and control.
If Hyperborea had secrets, the Bolsheviks wanted them.
That was the clear implication. And to lead this monumental, maybe covert undertaking, Dzerzhinsky chose Alexander Vasilyevich Barenko.
Barenko? Who was he?
Not just any scholar. He was a researcher at Bekterev's respected institute, grounded in science, but also a practicing occultist, a pioneering researcher of paranormal phenomena.
Occultist scientist. Yeah. Combination.
Uniquely suited, perhaps, to delve into the mystical aura, the local traditions of the Kola Peninsula. He'd already done a smaller reconnaissance trip in 1920 to the Lake Lovozero region, started to deepen his understanding of Sami legends, the area's mystical feel. It was said he felt at home there, as if drawn by something. So in 1922, Barenko led a more substantial expedition, 6 carefully selected people, to the highly sacred Lake Setazero, a place revered by the Sami.
Sacred Lake Setazero, okay. What did they find?
Their discoveries were, well, sensational, bordering on unbelievable. Beneath the lake, they found strange hills at the intersection of water streams, clearly shaped like pyramids.
Pyramids? In the Kola Peninsula?
Shaped like pyramids, yes. Sami shamans used them for rituals, claimed they were built in forgotten times when life on Earth was beginning.
Wow. linked to the dawn of time.
The shamans also shared information about a mythical stone of Orion, or as some European secret societies called it, the Grail Stone.
Stone of Orion. Grail Stone, okay.
Barenko, with his occult background, suspected a profound connection. Between these pyramids, the constellation Orion, which was huge in ancient Egypt, remember?
Right, the belt, the pyramids of Giza.
And this mythical stone. According to the legends shared with Barenko, the stone of Orion had extraordinary properties.
Like what?
It could accumulate and transmit psychic energy over a distance, allowing direct contact with a cosmic, all-encompassing mind.
Psychic energy transmission.
Yeah.
Contact with a cosmic mind. That's huge.
With claim of incredible, almost divine power. Then the expedition witnessed firsthand the astonishing abilities of the Sami shamans.
What do they see?
They were led to a place dominated by tall stone columns, megaliths. Anyone who entered their field of influence immediately felt weakness, dizziness, had vivid hallucinations.
Whoa, like a force field.
Something like that. There, Sami shamans demonstrated their uncanny ability to communicate with tribe members at a distance. The main shaman entered between the columns, visibly fell into an incomprehensible, altered state of consciousness.
And then?
From this state, he began to influence people around him, a phenomenon strikingly resembling mass hypnosis. Everyone repeated his movements, spoke incomprehensible languages, uttered prophecies.
Mass hypnosis.
Yeah.
Controlled by the shaman in that state.
It was undeniably clear they were influenced by the power of this unique occult place, suggesting a direct, measurable interaction with some unknown force.
Okay, this is going way beyond just finding old ruins.
Way beyond. And besides these psychic phenomena, Barenko's team also made significant physical discoveries, pointing to an advanced ancient presence.
Physical discoveries? Like what?
They unearthed 2 large rectangular granite stones, meticulously oriented towards the cardinal points, indicating sophisticated astronomy or sacred geometry.
Precisely aligned stones.
Even more astonishingly, they found more stone pyramids, which were described as geographically identical to those in Egypt.
Geographically identical, you mean like the layout, the relative positions.
That seems to be the implication in the source material, a staggering claim, suggesting a shared architectural heritage across continents.
Mind blown. Okay, what else?
Perhaps most bizarrely, they discovered a colossal human-like figure, seemingly burned or imprinted into a massive rock face.
Earned into the rock. A giant human shape.
Sami legend attributed this to the Chud tribes. Their defeated leaders, in despair, supposedly chose to imprint their bodies into the stone after falling from a cliff, leaving this permanent spectral record.
That's incredibly strange and disturbing.
And on Rogova Island, in the middle of Lake Zeta Zero, they found several strange, clearly man-made holes, deliberately filled with stones, purpose unknown, origin artificial.
Mysterious holes filled with stones.
And here's where the terrifying connection to Arctic hysteria becomes chillingly direct and personal for the expedition members.
How?
When team members approached these very holes, they experienced terrible headaches, profound depression, and pathological horror.
The expedition members felt it themselves.
Yes. Symptoms described as being identical with the previously studied Arctic hysteria. This wasn't just observation, it was direct personal experience of that mysterious condition.
Triggered by proximity to those holes.
Apparently. So all these discoveries combined, the architecture, the giant figure, the holes, the direct link to this psychic illness, it strongly indicated the presence of an ancient civilization in the region.
An ancient civilization that was either
continuing to operate remotely, manipulating these forces somehow, or had left behind advanced technology that the local inhabitants had learned to utilize, technology capable of influencing mind and matter.
Wow, okay. So Barenko goes back to Moscow with this bombshell report.
Absolutely. His comprehensive, detailed report to the Bekhterev Institute was an unprecedented revelation for the whole Soviet scientific community.
It must have caused chaos.
It immediately fueled widespread discussions, ignited heated debates about the Kola Peninsula being the potential origin point of the entire human race, and a strong candidate for the lost Hyperborea, a place of incredible power, forgotten knowledge.
That's an astonishing array of findings.
Yeah.
From architectural anomalies like pyramids mirroring Egypt to massive, precisely oriented granite structures, a giant human imprint burned into rock, and then direct visceral experiences of psychic phenomena and the mysterious Arctic hysteria.
It paints a picture of a place truly out of time.
It really does. Defying our conventional historical understanding, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it suggests an ancient civilization with capabilities far beyond what we typically imagined for that era, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible back then.
Absolutely.
But for discovery of such magnitude, why isn't it widely known today? This is where the story takes an even darker turn, isn't it?
Absolutely. The implications of Barenko's findings were immense, and it's clear they resonated deeply with Felix Dzerzhinsky.
Iron Felix again.
His reaction to Barenko's thunderous report was described as visibly emotional, indicating its profound impact, an impact way beyond just science, clearly touching on strategic national interest for the Soviets.
Okay, so he was impressed or alarmed.
The profound impact, however, led to a disturbing, truly chilling chain of events. Dzerzhinsky, ever the pragmatist architect of Soviet security, he swiftly organized another expedition in 1923, just a year after Barenko's.
Another one to check the findings.
Led by Arnold Kolanov. Significantly, it retraced Barenko's exact route, seemingly to verify things. However, Kolanov's official report, when he got back, it completely refuted Barenko's findings, shockingly claimed that nothing Barenko described actually existed.
He said it was all fake after retracing the route.
That was the official story. And this official refutation was quickly followed by a public discrediting campaign. The state newspaper Polar Star published devastating articles, accusing Barenko of mystification and fabricating facts, trying to paint him as a charlatan, a fantasist.
A classic smear campaign.
Pretty much, though despite this brutal public attack, Barenko initially maintained his standing among his colleagues, at least for a while, suggesting those who knew him, knew his work, had a reason to believe him.
But the official narrative was set. Nothing to see here.
Exactly. But this public discrediting, that was just the beginning of something much darker, more systematic. The source strongly implies that Dzerzhinsky initiated a manipulation of Barenko's discoveries.
Manipulation how?
What unfolded next was a deliberate, systematic effort to suppress the findings and eliminate the witnesses. A chilling campaign against anyone connected to the truth of the Kola Peninsula.
Eliminate the witnesses, you mean?
The tragic fates of the expedition members are a stark, undeniable testament to this. The pattern is, well, it's impossible to ignore. 1924. Just 2 years after the expedition, Mikhail Rasputin, not that Rasputin, but the crucial expedition guide who knew the region, its secrets intimately died tragically. Mysterious circumstances.
Okay.
Then, 1926. Semyonov, the expedition's official photographer and chronicler, the guy with the visual evidence, died under unexplained circumstances.
Explained, yeah.
The following year, 1927, Alexander Lulin, the astronomer from the first expedition, the scientific mind who could corroborate alignments, geographical data, sent to a brutal labor camp in northern Siberia, perished from exhaustion, his knowledge silenced.
Sent to the Gulag.
Early 1930s, both Barenko's unnamed student and his personal secretary, also integral parts of the expedition, privy to his private research, died from an unknown infection.
Unknown infection. Convenient.
A convenient, often untraceable cause of death back then. Finally, the leader himself, Alexander Vasilievich Barenko, the man who uncovered all this, first repressed in 1928, the start of his political persecution. Then, along with his wife, executed in 1937, during Stalin's Great Purge.
Executed. Every single one.
The stark conclusion drawn by the source is chilling. All members of the expedition were simply removed, effectively preventing anyone from ever revealing the true discoveries made in those inaccessible lands.
Simply removed. Just wiped off the map.
The reasons for this extreme systematic suppression are thought to be twofold, reflecting Bolshevik concerns. Either what Barenko found contradicted the prevailing Bolshevik materialistic worldview.
Right, their core ideology. No room for mysticism, ancient non-Marxist history, non-material forces.
Exactly. Or, and perhaps more likely, given Dzerzhinsky's role, authorities sought to secure this ancient knowledge or technology for their own power.
Keep it secret, keep it safe for themselves.
Prevent it becoming public, disrupting their control, or worse, falling into enemy hands. This deliberate, brutal suppression irrevocably left the mystery unresolved, shrouding the incredible findings in this deep veil of political intrigue, tragedy, unanswered questions.
That's a truly chilling pattern of deaths and disappearances. It's hard to ignore the implications when everyone involved in a groundbreaking discovery ends up removed from the picture in such a systematic way.
It's hard to see it as coincidence.
It really raises an important question. What exactly did Barenko and his team uncover that was so significant, so potentially disruptive, so antithetical to a materialist worldview, or maybe so valuable for state power that it warranted such extreme measures to keep it secret?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
This deliberate historical blackout just makes the truth of Hyperborea all the more compelling to seek out.
It's a question that definitely continues to echo through history, leaving the mystery of Hyperborea's existence very much unsolved, shrouded by this veil of suppression.
Is there any hope of finding out more? Future expeditions?
Well, the enduring hope is that despite the past, future international expeditions might eventually be organized to those cold northern lands of Russia, to finally uncover what was truly lost and reveal it to the world.
That would be incredible.
And the core belief, the idea that Hyperborea is the ancestral home of all humanity living on Earth, that's truly profound, staggering implications.
If that could be proven.
It directly challenges currently accepted historical narratives, our entire understanding of human origins. It would mean a complete reevaluation of human history, the timeline of civilization, how we developed.
Everything changes.
Imagine the transformation for our collective identity, our shared heritage, if all humanity could trace its roots back to one single ancient advanced civilization in the far north.
It wouldn't just be history, it'd be revolutionary. Could undermine so much conflict.
Exactly. It could expose the manufactured nature of global conflict. And on that note, the source even mentions contemporary genetic research, specifically on haplogroup I1.
Haplogroup I1, explain that a bit.
Sure. A haplogroup is basically a large group of people sharing a common ancestor way back through either their father's line or mother's line, based on specific genetic markers passed down, like a unique ancestral signature in our DNA.
Okay. So what about haplogroup I1?
The idea mentioned is that this specific haplogroup could potentially reveal dispersed members of an ancient human group possibly originating from Hyperborea. It could be a scientific thread, a genetic echo, connecting modern populations back to this ancient, hypothetical origin point.
So DNA evidence.
Potentially. If scientific proof of common ancestry showed humanity truly forms genetic brothers, sharing this deep common root, it could fundamentally undermine the artificial divisions and conflicts plaguing our world.
Would powers that be want that revealed?
Well, the source points out a critical political implication, a potential reason for suppression, maybe. Such a revelation might not align with modern political agendas. It could dramatically expose how enemies are forcibly created from our genetic brothers by those seeking power through division.
Wow. That insight itself is powerful, a reason to bury the truth.
It provides a lens, certainly. And then think about how uncovering Hyperborea's secrets could reshape our view of past human capabilities.
Right, they weren't just spiritual, they were advanced.
Described as immensely talented, advanced technical minds, even credited with architectural masterpieces like the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, some accounts say built by a Hyperborean named Pythia, suggesting mastery of engineering, design, way beyond their supposed time.
And Barenko found evidence.
Tangible, physical evidence consistent with this. The stone pyramids geographically identical to those in Egypt. Those massive, precisely oriented granite stones, that colossal human figure burned into the rock.
And the Sami learning to use leftover technology.
Exactly. It points to an incredibly sophisticated past, maybe a forgotten age of high technology. Uncovering that would expand our understanding of human potential, past achievements, suggesting a far more complex, capable ancestry than we usually acknowledge. We'd have to redefine primitive, wouldn't we?
We absolutely would. And then there's a whole spiritual, psychic dimension.
Yes. Highly spiritual, pure, loved by the gods, living in an elevated state of consciousness. That stone of Orion, the Grail stone.
Right, accumulating and transmitting psychic energy, contacting a cosmic mind.
It hints at an advanced understanding of consciousness, energy, the fabric of reality itself, the occult locations on Kola, the Sami shamans inducing mass hypnosis, manipulating consciousness.
And Arctic hysteria linked to unexplained forces.
It all strongly suggests a deep mastery of psychic phenomena, the non-physical aspects of existence. If those spiritual or psychic technologies, those understandings, were rediscovered,
It would be revolutionary.
it could revolutionize humanity's self-perception, offer insights into consciousness, energy, our connection to the cosmos, move us way beyond purely materialistic worldviews, open up entirely new paradigms.
It's a breathtaking thought, isn't it? The possibility that our deep past holds not just historical data, but profound keys to our very consciousness, to advanced technologies, and even a path to collective human unity.
It's almost overwhelming to consider.
What if the deepest secrets of our past hold the key to unlocking our collective future? And how much are we truly willing to risk to genuinely uncover them, knowing the lengths some have gone to keep them hidden?
That's the ultimate question, perhaps.
Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the lost continent of Hyperborea. We sincerely hope you found it as fascinating, as thought-provoking as we did.
Hope it sparks some curiosity.
Absolutely. And that it encourages you to explore the hidden narratives of our world. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Stay with us on all our adventures into the unknown.
We've got more coming.
We do. And if you enjoyed this discussion, please consider sharing it with others who might be curious about these mysteries, the forgotten chapters of human history. We absolutely love having you with us on the deep dive.
It's always a pleasure.
And we can't wait to invite you to our next one. Until then, stay curious.